No one's going to make the difference other than you. No one's going to make the money other than you. Only person that understands your struggle and cares about your struggle should be yourself, because the only person that's coming to save you ever is going to be yourself. Change your situation. Doesn't take complaints. Doesn't take, I'm going to start next year. I'm going to try this. New Year's this. I'm going to this. I'm going to that. Just takes you waking up one day and saying, all right, today's the day. I'm going to make an extra $5 today. In the Caribbean, one of the two biggest problems that we're facing today has to be minimum wage and rent. When you think about it, right? You have all these banks that we have available. I mean, you walk down the street, you find a bank, you got ATM charges, you walk in the bank, it's a charge, but then somehow, some way, all these foreign banks, local banks that we have, it's so hard for our people throughout the Caribbean to get mortgages. That's a big problem, right? I mean, when you think about it, we in a situation now where it's easier to get a car loan, it's easier to get a loan for vacation, it's easier to get a loan for things that'll keep us in debt than to get a loan for an investment property, a triplex, duplex, whatever it may be, that you can make income on as a person, not even necessarily on minimum wage, but just as a person in general when it comes to these institutions. And this big thing that we don't talk about is how could we get out of this cycle? How could we get out of this trap here in the Caribbean? Minimum wage is something that we need to talk about, but also rent is something that we need to talk about, because rent prices just keep going up every single year, just like inflation. But the problem is you have these situations where people can go in and get these loans for things that don't make sense. They get payday loans, they can get all these different things. But hey, I'm paying rent $1,200 a month, $800 a month, $500 a month, wherever you are, because it depends where you are. But I'm paying rent. Here's how much I'm paying. Why can't I get a mortgage to equate to what I'm paying for rent or less? And it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's something that we've never really looked at ourselves. One of the biggest things in the Caribbean that I always say to myself is, we've gotten so accustomed to just bad treatment or bad prices or the reality of things that we don't do anything to change what we got going on. So we'll look at something and we'll glorify the negativity. We'll find a way to say, all right, well, the cereal price is always this. Y'all cereal price low in this place. But we never sit around and figure out, okay, how do we get our cereal price down? Same thing with gas prices. Oh, gas prices here, but in the US it's this, or in here it's that, or in Trinidad it's X, but we never figure out how to solve the problem for ourselves. We always kind of just find ourselves in a situation where we can throw it at someone and say, all right, well, we don't know what it is, but either government gonna fix it or somebody else gonna fix it. The biggest problem with that right now is what we're facing with our housing problem and our rent problem, and just being able to find a home in these places throughout the Caribbean. Once again, it's something that is simple to approach, and I'll talk about it in a second. How could you approach solving that problem? How could you get out of that situation? How could you find yourself in a way where you can get into a home or an investment property? And I don't even think people should be focused on getting into a home. I think everybody should be focused on getting into investment property. You got so many people that need to be able to afford to rent somewhere, that people will pay your rent, and it makes no sense to go into renting something. If you can't afford the $1,500 a month in US in rent, it makes no sense to go and buy a duplex and then charge the person on the side of you $1,500. We got to start to get into the system and program where we start understanding, okay, we need rules and regulations to solve the problem ourselves, right? So it's like finding yourself in a situation where you can constantly help others, or change the narrative that was always set in front of you, or that you had to deal with when you get out of it. But the biggest thing is, once again, us understanding how we can get around these things. And it's a little small tips and tricks that anybody could have. So for example, I tell people, I say, okay, if banks are businesses, right? If you do get a mortgage for an investment property, don't stop there. Once you get a mortgage from CIBC, for example, go to Scotia with the same mortgage. Hey, can you guys do better than this? You're already proved. That means that one bank saw you fit. Most likely the other banks are going to want to have your business. They want to make money from you. Understand what's in front of you. Understand what interest you're paying. Understand your repayment, any repayment arrangements that they have in there, where you prepay early or you prepay on the principal. If they have any penalties, understand all these things so you don't find yourself in a situation where you're the one on the bad end of the stick. Make sure you're ahead of the game. Make sure you're understanding constantly what you're putting yourself into. But once again, like I said, you got minimum wage rate. It ranges throughout the whole entire Caribbean. Whether you look at in Haiti where it's $5, or you look at Jamaica where it's $100 a week, you look at the Bahamas where it's $260 a week, or Guyana where it's $335, and those are just the averages of what they are. But that's kind of like the basis of it. But it doesn't matter, because the biggest problem that we face is that expenses are too high. Inflation is rising and our expenses are consistently going up. But then it's about understanding how we can tackle that. And I think a lot of times people find themselves in situations, they're looking at it and say, oh, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to solve this problem. I don't know how to fix my situation. I don't know how to not deal with the banks. And it's a weird thing, because a lot of people think this way, right? It's just like everything is the opposite of what it should be. A lot of times we don't strive towards personal excellence. We don't strive towards making a change. We don't strive towards the next thing or the difference. So if you feel like the bank's causing you to not get a home, once again, like I said, I'm going to get to the solution. But if you feel like the bank's not, hey, the bank not giving me a loan, strive towards rebelling against the bank. How do you do that? Find ways to make more money. You find ways to prove the bank wrong. And the only way that we're going to solve all our problems is by putting ourselves in situations where we find a way to personally rebel against the thing that we think is stopping us. But that's the government. The government ain't making me, the government making me poor. All right, well, get rich. The government not going to say nothing to you, right? So we got to find a way to get ourselves out of the situation, but typically it's from personal excellence, and it's from rebelling against whatever it is you think is stopping you. So in the situation of, like I said, the minimum wage thing, once again, I don't think it's going to change. In terms of what's happening right now, rent prices are going to keep increasing throughout the whole entire Caribbean. Minimum wage is going to stay right where it's at. People are going to be able to not, and I could break it down for the Bahamas, for example. Let's just say rent is $800. Which is if you get lucky, you find some place for $800. Now rent over $1,000, right? Let's say you find a place for $800. Food on average, no matter what, can cost you $100 a week, right? You may be able to try to survive with less than $100 a week, but let's just say $100 a week, $100 to $125. So now you're here stuck at $1,200 already, just off of that basic necessity. Now let's say you don't have a car, right? Because we don't even want to think about car insurance, car, gas, whatever it may be. You just got to move around. That's another $100. Easy. Moving around 3 times a day. You got to catch the bus. You got to pay for that, right? So you're looking at another basically $100 every single month. So now we at $1,300, $1,400 already. And that's just not even off of anything past surviving. That's just where we're at. Now when you look at minimum wage in the Bahamas, you're talking about $1,000, $1,060, right? Nobody could, it's not really much that somebody could do with that, right? They saying, all right, well, I got it's $260 a week, so $520, $1,040, right? I got $1,040, and now my basic necessity is $1,400. How do we survive off of that? How do we change that? And it's as simple as this. You start looking at the things like inflation. You start saying, okay, how do I combat this situation, right? And it starts with, all right, well, I'm gonna learn a skill additionally to my job. I'm gonna lean on my strength. If I'm good at talking, if I'm good at selling straw stuff, I'm gonna figure out how to sell it online. I'm gonna figure out how to do this. And people don't understand, and that's something that like we've been taught wrong in our environment. Follow your passion, figure out what your passion is. No, follow your strengths. Follow what you're good at. I always tell people all the time, I say, well, I'm 6'6". If I was first draft pick to the NBA, but my passion was drawing grade 3 art, doodling grade 3 art, should I go and do that, or should I go to the NBA and then figure out how I can start a museum of grade 3 art sometime down the line when I'm rich as hell? I think it's much more important to go after the strengths, because my strengths would be basketball in that situation, right? People find themselves in this situation where they don't understand how important it is to lean on the strengths that they do have. And everybody has a strength. I don't care what your GPA was in school, how much time you been in trouble, what you got going on. As people in the Caribbean, as people, and I see it every single day in the Bahamas. I see it every single time I travel to Jamaica. I see it every single time I travel to Trinidad. As people in this part of the world, we find a way. So you constantly finding a way to survive. You constantly finding a way to travel when you need to. You constantly finding a way to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And we got these skills. I mean, you look at some of these young men, these young women. I know guys that being in the streets their whole entire life, put them on a construction site, they could build a whole house. That's a skill. I don't care how you look at it. It's a skill. And if you figure out different ways to, take a different mentality, take a different approach. You put a street dude in business, you see how much of a hustler and how much things he get done, how he figure out, find a way. You put some women in sales roles or operations roles. You put women to manage projects. You put women to do anything. They killing it. Start their own business. They got it down to a T. We have so much skills in this environment, but we don't leverage it. Our skills die in the Caribbean. They don't go past what we got going on here. They don't go international. They're not trying to make it to Europe, to the US, to wherever it may be. We're trying to escape there, but we ain't trying to make it there while being here. A lot of times we just need to understand that. If I had to look at different ways to solve this issue of minimum wage and rent, because that's the baseline of what we got going on in our environment. People are just literally just surviving. They can't go past that. We need to now figure out, all right, what are my strengths? My strengths, this, and this. Write it down on a piece of paper. 5 strengths. I do this, I do that. I'm good at this. All right, what's next? What digital skills can I learn? Because you know what? I work 40 hours a week. And this is what you got to break down what people don't understand. And I break it down for people. All right, every single day I got 24 hours. I got 168 hours a week. I now need to figure out how to take myself to the next level. What do I need to do? Boom. I work 40 hours a week. You know how much time left you got? You got 128 hours left. Yeah, you sleep a lot of that. But that's how much time you have left. You got 3 times the amount of working time that you have to make more money, to make a change. Even if you took 5 hours, but you could figure out a way to make an extra $20 in those hours, or you could figure out a way to make an extra $30 in those hours, whether it's cleaning something else, whether it's offering this, whether it's doing a service online, whether it's acting as a virtual assistant or administration work or whatever it may be, or learning a skill during that time so that you can sell it off to do a website or to do this or do that. You still got a whole nother 128 hours in a week that if you say 8 of those hours, I'm gonna make another $100, another $150, it makes a difference. Because if you could comfortably find a way to make an additional $150 on the time that you have, you essentially could change your whole entire life. Then you got a lot of times we don't know how to come together as a community. We don't understand the people aspect of it. If you could find $10 a week, $20 a week, you could put it on the side, but you could find 5 friends to do it with. You're talking about, all right, everybody put $30 a week. That's $150 a week. That's $600 a month. $600 a month, that's $6,600 a year. So basically $7,000. If you do that for 5 years, right? Consistently, you put it into a bank account, you allow it all to go into one bank account. We got to trust each other, right? You could buy a triplex. You could buy a fourplex and allow that to make money, pull equity against the fourplex that you have or refinance it, and then go and build another one until everybody comfortably gets into their own fourplex or triplex or whatever it may be. It's gonna take some time. It might take 10 years, but imagine if you do that when you start doing it when you're 20 years old, 25 years old, with a group of your friends. That's another way for us to make it out. That's another way for us to get around this rent issue. But it's so hard for us to work together. Why we not being what we need to be for us? Why we not taking advantage of the communities and the systems that we create? We could stay in touch with our family. We could do all these things, but we can't ever mix the money. We can't ever mix the money to get out of our situation. We can't ever work together because everybody want their own, right? And that's another thing. We got to go away from trading our time to owning our time. And like I said, it doesn't need to be you starting your own company because ain't everybody fit to run their own business. But it could be you owning the 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a month to make a difference in your life. To add another $150 a week, $200 a week. I look at my office, and I spend a couple extra $100 a month just cleaning my office. I don't know what the person that cleans my office, I don't know what he does it wasn't me that chose that. It was somebody else in my office that chose that person, but I don't know what he does during the week. But he makes an extra couple dollars every single week once he does clean an office. And that's a simple thing, right? Let's say, and it doesn't take much out of his day. It takes a few hours, takes 3 hours or so to clean the office, and boom, you get extra $100+ in your pocket. Same thing with car cleaning, same thing with anything else. You could take any single thing and we could just move that money around in our economy, in our environment throughout the Caribbean, but we don't be thinking like that. So you got once again, coming together as a community, learning a skill that's tied to the strengths that you have, because that's important, and getting to a point where you understand that we not just one environment, we a whole group of nations that have hustlers, that have go-getters, that have greatness just walking around everywhere in our environment. And then we got to take that international. We got to be able to say, we don't need basketball players, soccer players, this, that, and the next. We need people that are now understanding, hey, you just as important with a digital skill that you got, that you could sell to the US, that you could sell to a different country, that you could sell to a nation abroad. You got to understand why the foreigners come in and take advantage of our environment here in the Caribbean, and we don't take advantage of them ourselves. We got to start looking at the bigger picture. We got to start asking these questions. And it's not for people to get lost or feel like they don't belong. We got to start owning. We got to start owning ourselves, owning us, owning our environment, owning our problems, attacking our problems because they are problems. We got to see it for what it is. Because like I said, everybody in the Caribbean, we hustlers, man. Wherever we go, we drop in Miami, we drop in New York, we drop anywhere in the world, Canada, wherever. We gonna get there and make a mark. We gonna start something. We gonna throw events. We gonna start restaurants, stores, hair salons, you name it. And the music touches, somebody's artist in Jamaica is just as popular in the UK, for example, in Canada. And you see it all the time. If music can do it, if sports can do it, why can the individual that is sitting now saying, I got this problem, I can't afford my rent, why can't that person touch one little life in Europe somewhere, US somewhere, Canada somewhere online to make $20, $30 during the extra 128 hours that we got? Even if you sleeping 8 hours a night, you're talking about 56 hours. Now we removed that. We got 56 plus the 40. You're 96, but we still got 168. You got a whole another 60 hours that you could do towards something else, that we spend time doing all type of things and stressing about us surviving and being in these problems and try how to get out. What can I do? How could I hustle? How could I borrow? But not how could I own? You're gonna borrow from somebody else, but you can come together with them to make some money. You can come together with them to try to buy a triplex or try to get yourself out of a situation. And we consistently get into debt. We consistently not beat inflation. We consistently don't invest in ourselves. But it don't make no sense. It's not gonna get us nowhere. It's not gonna change our situation. Now, I think it just comes down to you understanding the importance of yourself, of who we are in our environment, of how we can make a difference together. Because you are the only person that could ever hold you back. Nobody can hold you back. Nobody can stop you from being great. Nobody can stop you from saying, okay, from the Caribbean to the world. Nobody can stop you from, hey, I need to be the best version of myself so I can change my situation tomorrow, not next year, not 2 years late from now. You're gonna always end up back in the same cycle. So I may not, my message to you, but my message may not be for everyone. My message for the people in the Caribbean that feel like they're tired of just struggling, feel like they're tired of being in the situation or the same loop, and they want more for themselves. They want to see a difference. They want to say, hey, I'm gonna be out into my own place. I'm gonna have my own situation. I ain't gotta worry about these things. I'm gonna be the difference in my family. I'm gonna be the one that these little kids or this family member or my parents see as, oh, I can make a difference. I don't gotta stay in this. I don't need to escape my environment to go have a better life. I have the best of both worlds. I have the best of all worlds right here at home. These situations, I'm above these situations because I could be above them. You could be above them. That's what we gotta get in our head. We gotta program that in our head every single day. We gotta wake up and say, you gonna be different. I'm gonna be different. He gonna be different. She gonna be different. Everyone gonna be different. Because that's the only thing that's gonna change the problems that we have here in the Caribbean. Not thinking somebody coming to save us, because nobody coming to save us. We ain't gonna be saved. You gotta save you. And the way to save yourself right away is, what skills do I got? Use AI. Talk to people. Go in and fail. Where do I start? It don't matter, just start. Don't try to be perfect. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to act like you know what's going on. Just start. Just open up your mouth. Ask a question. Just look online. Just figure something out. Just start. Ask the closest person you could for help, and they most likely will help you. So we need more ways in our environment to get out of these problems because we hold ourselves back. And by holding ourselves back, we hold our nations back. We hold ourselves from being in situations that can make our lives better. But it's so easy for us now to make that change. Only you could be your own personal guideline to what your excellence looks like. Only you could be healthy for you. Only you could change your environment. Only you could make an extra $100 a month. Only you could make an extra $1,000 a month, $10,000 a month. That has to come from you. That has to come from your desire to be great within you. No one else. No one else anywhere in the Caribbean could force you to be greater than what you are for yourself. We have to now grow, get to a point where we understand the importance of saying to ourselves, hey, I don't need to be outside my environment. Canada, the US, UK. I don't need to go to pay taxes or to be an illegal immigrant or to try to figure out a better life somewhere else that ain't my home. I could figure that out right here with these same problems. I could be above these problems. You could be anything you want to be at any point. You could do all of that you need to do from here. And when you start talking to yourself, you start understanding that stuff, that's the type of mentality that's going to change our environment. That's the type of mentality that's going to change the future generation in every single place throughout the Caribbean. We're not countries that are behind. We're just countries that have people that need to say, hey, this is paradise. This is beautiful. People from all over the world want to come to these countries, these islands, and experience them. People spend $2,000, $3,000 US a night to go to Sandals and places in St. Lucia and places in the Bahamas and places in Turks and Caicos. But you know what I'm saying? How do we appreciate this stuff for ourselves and understand how to make this money for us? How do we make this money to change our environments? How do we now get in control to the point where we love being home and we don't have these issues of minimum wage shouldn't even be a conversation in paradise? Why is that a conversation? It ain't a conversation for people and locals in other countries that have restructured to benefit the locals or benefit them. How are we selling paradise? How are we selling sunshine and sea? We worried about minimum wage. We worried about what the government doing. Groups of men, women, what they doing and what decisions they making for us. How we gonna allow a group of people to make a decision for our lives, for your life? How you gonna allow somebody to tell you what to do and what you should accept on the job for your skills and your time? We can't accept that, and only you can accept that. Not everybody gonna accept that. Not the dude driving the boat or the dude driving a nice car or the dude building a bunch of units somewhere or whatever it may be, running a big business. That guy or that woman, they not accepting that. They starting to do what they need to do for them. So pick up the skill, take the extra few hours that you got a week and say, hey, I just need to start. I only need to figure out an extra $5, $2, $10, whatever dollars for 8 hours extra every single week. Start as simple as that. I guarantee you in a year, your rent price, if you are struggling to pay rent, a year from now it wouldn't make a difference. Because whatever skill that is or whatever thing that you picked up, you should get so good at that makes so much revenue for you, or you know how to maximize it even more a year from now to be in such a better position where now you could just go off and branch off and do what you need to do and say, man, I was living there, but I can rent somewhere else, or I could go back to the bank now, or I could figure it out. And I've seen it happen to people. I've seen it happen to people in my life. They started their business and pay off their mortgage in 4 years. Went from working for people and then started their business and pay off, and because they started jobs on the side. They started getting money on the side. So it's as simple as that. You gotta just start. You gotta just take the skills that you got, because the problems, I can come up with a lot of solutions economically that make sense, that would change the fact that minimum wage is way lower than what rent is, and that's before food. And people are living in poverty in our environments. But the biggest thing that I can say from a financial standpoint is the only person that's going to change that is you. And it starts by taking your hours, the extra little 8 hours that you got, to work on a skill, to learn digital skills, to lean on your strengths, try to make an extra couple dollars, cleaning the car, cleaning up something, watching something for somebody, whether it's a dog, a child, figuring out how to help somebody or assist somebody or make somebody else's life easy so they can pay you a couple dollars or whatever it may be. But it starts with you. You got to change the mentality within your mind. You got to be the one to make the shift. And here in the Caribbean, with all the hustlers that we got, the communities that we've built, you got exactly what you need in your environment to be great here, right at home. Like I said, it starts with you, no one else. No one's gonna make the difference other than you. No one's gonna make the money other than you. No one's gonna reap the benefits other than you. And no one's gonna understand the journey, the struggle, the survival, anything that you're going through. Not the government, not the big businessman with all the money, or big businesswoman with all the money, not the person with the new nice car, not the person with the new big family. Only person that understands your struggle and cares about your struggle should be yourself. Because the only person that's coming to save you ever is going to be yourself. No other person in this environment, the next country, the next Caribbean island, nobody cares about what the next minimum wage is over there. We only care about what we got going on in our environment. And in your environment, your bills, your stress, your problems, at the end of the day, I will always say that only you will make the difference of what it is that you are doing in your life. Have a better life for the future behind you. Whether that's kids, family, kids, whatever it may be. And only you are gonna be greater than yourself every single day to change your situation. Doesn't take complaints, doesn't take I'm gonna start next year, I'm gonna try this, New Year's this, I'm a that. Just takes you waking up one day and saying, all right, today's the day, I'm gonna make an extra $5 today. You learn that skill. You compound on learning that skill. Do it over and over and over and over and over and over, and you get used to it. And that's a skill. $5 a day is a skill. You just focus on that. Finding something that you could attack and use to do that. Finding a way to make money on the basis of that. Do that every single day. That $5 one day gonna turn to 100. 100 one day gonna turn to 1,000. 1,000 one day gonna turn to 10,000. You gonna find yourself in a situation where you're trying to figure out how I go from struggling to figure out rent to put myself in a place where I don't even know what bills are anymore. And that's such a real opportunity. And it's not for everyone. Like I said, it's for the person that's sitting here listening, understanding. Tomorrow I'm gonna start. I don't need nobody to rustle my feathers no more. I'm gonna start tomorrow. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna change my situation, because the only person that's gonna do that is gonna be me. Once you understand that, you're gonna find yourself in a situation far better than any other situation you've been in your life, because that puts you at a point where you now understand that you are control of your time. You own you. You own your time. You own your life. You own your trajectory for life. You own the trajectory for the future that's behind you. And you, by changing that, if you impact others around you, that's how we change nations. That's how we change the people. That's how we change the world. Change the world by being better versions of ourselves and impacting others that surround us. But if you're in a situation right now, take the advice. Understand the time. Understand the importance of the time. Understand the importance of the skill. Focus on you. Focus on becoming a better version of yourself. That's all I got.